The top 10 classic works of fiction of all time.
If you are returning to the Classic Masterworks channel, welcome back. If you are new, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you will be made aware of our latest content. And now, on with the story.
Throughout history, there have been countless praiseworthy novels written. Today we present our own list of what we consider to be the top classic works of fiction. Join us as we explore these novels. We think you may find some of these to be expected, while some may surprise you. Let's begin. Number 10. The Lord of the Rings by j.r.r. Tolkien. Tolkien's 3-volume series, The Lord of the Rings, towers over every work of fantasy ever produced. Taken up as a continuation of his short story for children, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings involves darker and more serious themes while expanding the world of Middle-earth into one of the finest examples of world-building ever. The Lord of the Rings takes place over 3 epic books, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. Beyond being just a piece of high fantasy, Tolkien includes his fondness for created languages, and the prose narrative is supplemented throughout by over 60 pieces of poetry. Tolkien was inspired primarily by his profession, philology. His work centered on the study of Old English literature, especially Beowulf, and he acknowledged its importance to his writings. He was a gifted linguist, influenced by Celtic, Finnish, Slavic, and Greek language and mythology. The original work also featured illustrations, calligraphy, and detailed maps of Middle-earth. The Lord of the Rings also demonstrates a wide array of influences including language, Christianity, mythology, and Germanic heroic legend, including the Norse Volsunga saga, ancient and modern literature, and personal experience. The arts and crafts polymath William Morris was a major influence, and Tolkien undoubtedly made use of some real place names, such as Bag End, the name of his aunt's home. Tolkien stated, too, that he had been influenced by his childhood experiences of the English countryside of Worcestershire near Sarehole Mill, and its urbanization by the growth of Birmingham, and his personal experience of fighting in the trenches of the First World War. Moreover, the militarization and industrialization surrounding the Second World War seems to have obviously inspired the character of Sauron and his orc forces, representing the worst of it as workers that have been tortured and brutalized by the war and industry. In 1957, The Lord of the Rings was awarded the International Fantasy Award. Despite its numerous detractors, its publication in paperbacks helped The Lord of the Rings become immensely popular in the United States in the 1960s. The book has remained so ever since, ranking as one of the most popular works of fiction of the 20th century, judged by both sales and reader surveys. In the 2003 Big Read survey conducted in Britain by the BBC, The Lord of the Rings was found to be the nation's best-loved book. In similar 2004 polls, both Germany and Australia chose The Lord of the Rings as their favorite book. In a 1999 poll of Amazon.com customers, The Lord of the Rings was judged to be their favorite book of the millennium. In 2019, the BBC News listed The Lord of the Rings on its list of the 100 most influential novels. Number 9. Dune by Frank Herbert. Dune is the best-selling science fiction novel of all time. Frank Herbert originally wrote the novel after he was working as a journalist in the late 1950s and learned about a revegetation plan for the sand dunes of Oregon. This ecological experiment led him down the path to what eventually became a series of 6 books about humanity's place in the universe 10,000 years from now. Melange, or spice, is the most valuable and rarest element in the universe, a drug that does everything from increasing a person's lifespan to making interstellar travel possible. Whoever controls Arrakis controls the spice. And whoever controls the spice controls the universe. The spice can only be found on a single planet, the inhospitable desert world Arrakis, which is also known as Dune. When the emperor transfers stewardship of Arrakis from the noble House Harkonnen to House Atreides, the Harkonnens fight back, murdering Duke Leto Atreides. Paul, his son, and Lady Jessica, his concubine, flee into the desert. On the point of death, they are rescued by a band of Fremen, the native people of Arrakis, who control Arrakis' second great resource, the giant worms that burrow beneath the burning desert sands. In order to avenge his father and retake Arrakis from the Harkonnens, Paul must earn the trust of the Fremen and lead a tiny army against the innumerable forces aligned against them. And his journey will change the universe. Herbert's writing is elevated in what is mainly a pulp genre. The language and rhythm of the book are intentional and deliberate. This rhythm sets up the pacing of the novel, which is slower at the beginning and racing at the end. In terms of language, Herbert introduced whole languages into his world-building that have become iconic: the Bene Gesserit, the Fremen, the Weirding Way, and more. Herbert also had philosophical motives for writing Dune, including the fact that Paul Atreides may not actually be the hero of the story. Herbert wrote 5 sequels to Dune: Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and Chapter House, Dune. These works expand the universe over thousands of years. We had considered entering God Emperor of Dune in this spot of the list, but opted to put the novel that kicked off the Dune universe here instead. Leto II is one of the most complex and fascinating characters in literature, and the philosophical ideas covered in the book are engaging. Big ideas are explored in these books. Dune was the winner of the prestigious Hugo and Nebula Awards, and is widely considered one of the greatest science fiction novels ever written. Number 8. Middlemarch, a study of provincial life by George Eliot. Middlemarch is a novel by the English author Mary Ann Evans, who wrote as George Eliot. The work first appeared as 8-volume installments in 1871 and 1872. Set in Middlemarch, a fictional English Midland town, in 1829 to 1832, it follows distinct, intersecting stories with many characters. The issues in Middlemarch include the status of women, the nature of marriage, idealism, self-interest, religion, hypocrisy, political reform, and education. Despite comic elements, Middlemarch uses realism to encompass historical events such as the 1832 Reform Act, early railways, and the accession of King William IV. Lyrics for the song, How Soon Is Now, by the Smiths were taken from Middlemarch. I am the son and heir of nothing in particular. Among Middlemarch's characters are some of the most remarkable portraits in English literature: Dorothea Brooke, the heroine, idealistic but naive; Rosamund Vincy, beautiful and egoistic; Edward Casaubon, the dry-as-dust scholar; Tertius Lydgate, the brilliant but morally flawed physician; the passionate artist Will Ladislaw; and Fred Vincy and Mary Garth, childhood sweethearts whose charming courtship is one of the many humorous elements in the novel's rich comic vein. Middlemarch also presents medicine of the time and reactionary views in a settled community facing unwelcome change. Initial reviews of the novel were mixed, but it is now seen widely as her best work and one of the greatest in English literature. The BBC Cultures poll in 2015 voted Middlemarch the greatest British novel. As Michael Gorer commented, "If you really read this novel, you will learn about yourself. If you listen to Eliot, if you let her sentences penetrate, you will find out things about yourself that you didn't and maybe don't even want to know. Each page is a lesson in how to be honest with yourself." Number 7. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. To Kill a Mockingbird is a novel by the American author Harper Lee. The book was published just as the United States civil rights movement was gaining momentum and resonated with readers across cultural lines. As a Southern Gothic novel and Bildungsroman, the primary themes of To Kill a Mockingbird involve racial injustice and the destruction of innocence. Scholars have noted that Lee also addresses issues of class, courage, compassion, and gender roles in the Deep South. The plot and characters are loosely based on Lee's observations of her family, her neighbors, and an event that occurred near her hometown of Monroeville, Alabama, in 1936, when she was 10. Despite dealing with the serious issues of rape and racial inequality, the novel is renowned for its warmth and humor. Atticus Finch, the narrator's father, has served as a moral hero for many readers and as a model of integrity for lawyers. The historian Joseph Crespino explains, in the 20th century, To Kill a Mockingbird is probably the most widely read book dealing with race in America, and its main character, Atticus Finch, the most enduring fictional image of racial heroism. Reaction to the novel varied widely upon publication. Despite the number of copies sold and its widespread use in education, literary analysis of it is sparse. Author Mary McDonough Murphy, who collected individual impressions of To Kill a Mockingbird by several authors and public figures, calls the book an astonishing phenomenon. It was adapted into an Academy Award-winning film in 1962 by director Robert Mulligan, with a screenplay by Horton Foote. Since 1990, a play based on the novel has been performed annually in Harper Lee's hometown. In 2006, British librarians ranked the book ahead of the Bible as one every adult should read before they die. To Kill a Mockingbird has become a classic of modern American literature, winning the Pulitzer Prize. Number 6. 1984 by George Orwell. 1984 is a dystopian social science fiction novel and cautionary tale written by English writer George Orwell and published in 1949. Thematically, it centers on the consequences of totalitarianism, mass surveillance, and repressive regimentation of people and behaviors within society. Orwell, a democratic socialist, modeled the totalitarian government in the novel after Stalinist Russia and Nazi Germany. More broadly, the novel examines the role of truth and facts within politics and the ways in which they are manipulated. The story takes place in an imagined future, the year 1984, when much of the world has fallen victim to perpetual war, omnipresent government surveillance, historical negationism, and propaganda. Great Britain, known as Airstrip 1, has become a province of the totalitarian superstate Oceania, ruled by the party, who employ the thought police to persecute individuality and independent thinking. Big Brother, the dictatorial leader of Oceania, enjoys an intense cult of personality, manufactured by the party's excessive brainwashing techniques. The protagonist, Winston Smith, is a diligent and skillful rank-and-file worker at the Ministry of Truth, an outer-party member who secretly hates the party and dreams of rebellion. He expresses his dissent by writing in a diary and later enters into a forbidden relationship with his colleague Julia and starts to remember what life was like before the party came to power. This terrifying work also popularized the term Orwellian as an adjective, with many terms used in the novel entering common usage, including Big Brother, doublethink, thought police, thought crime, newspeak, and 2 + 2 = 5. Parallels have been drawn between the novel's subject matter and real-life instances of totalitarianism, mass surveillance, and violations of freedom of expression, among other themes. Time included the novel on its list of the 100 best English-language novels from 1923 to 2005, and it was placed on the Modern Library's 100 best novels list, reaching number 13 on the editor's list and number 6 on the reader's list. In 2003, it was listed at number 8 on the Big Read survey by the BBC. Number 5. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Crime and Punishment, first published in 1866 in serial installment in the Russian Messenger, is generally recognized as a high water mark of world literature. Written by Fyodor Dostoevsky, it is the second of Dostoevsky's full-length novels following his return from 10 years of exile in Siberia. Crime and Punishment is considered the first great novel of his mature period of writing. Crime and Punishment follows the mental anguish and moral dilemmas of Rodion Raskolnikov, an impoverished ex-student in St. Petersburg who plans to kill an unscrupulous pawnbroker, an old woman who stores money and valuable objects in her flat. Raskolnikov thinks that with the money he could liberate himself from poverty and go on to perform great deeds, and seeks to convince himself that certain crimes are justifiable if they are committed in order to remove obstacles to the higher goals of extraordinary men. Once the deed is done, however, he finds himself racked with confusion, paranoia, and disgust. Raskolnikov's theoretical justifications lose all their power as he struggles with guilt and horror and confronts both the internal and external consequences of his deed. The genius of Crime and Punishment is in the psychological depiction of Dostoevsky. The novel transports the reader into 19th century Russia, in the slums of St. Petersburg, inside the mind of an alienated, brooding yet intelligent man. Despite the crime element taking place in the first chapter, the book thrills and captivates the reader, presenting the account of Raskolnikov's inner punishment and the possibility of redemption. Number 4. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Since its immediate success in 1813, Pride and Prejudice has remained one of the most popular novels in the English language. Jane Austen called this brilliant work her own darling child, and its vivacious heroine, Elizabeth Bennet, as delightful a creature as ever appeared in print. The romantic clash between the opinionated Elizabeth and her proud beau, Mr. Darcy, is a splendid performance of civilized sparring. As the title alludes to, this is a story of two people who have nothing in common, neither class nor thinking. However, common human nature can be observed. Both main characters hate each other, both have pride and both are prejudiced. Austen's radiant wit sparkles as her characters dance a delicate quadrille of flirtation and intrigue, making this book the most superb comedy of manners of Regency England. Pride and Prejudice has consistently appeared near the top of lists of most loved books among literary scholars and the reading public. It has become one of the most popular novels in English literature, with over 20 million copies sold, and has inspired many derivatives in modern literature. For more than a century, dramatic adaptations, reprints, unofficial sequels, films, and TV versions of Pride and Prejudice have portrayed the memorable characters and themes of the novel, reaching mass audiences. Number 3. Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco. Although Eco's The Name of the Rose has sold more copies and has been adapted for the screen more than once, he himself said that Foucault's Pendulum was his finest work. The Italian writer did not start working on novels until he was nearly 50 years old. As a professor of semiotics, he was an expert in the symbols and language that shape our world. Eco spent 8 years compiling all of his expertise into the great conspiracy novel, Foucault's Pendulum. The novel is full of esoteric references to the Kabbalah, the Knights Templar, the occult, the Bible, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, computers, and more. Casaubon's name refers to classical scholar Isaac Casaubon and also evokes a scholar character in George Eliot's Middlemarch. After reading too many manuscripts about occult conspiracy theories, 3 Vanity publisher employees, Belbo, Diotilevi and Casaubon, decide to invent their own conspiracy for fun. They call this satirical intellectual game the Plan. The hoax connects the medieval Knights Templar with other occult groups from ancient to modern times. The title of the book refers to an actual pendulum designed by the French physicist Léon Foucault to demonstrate the rotation of the Earth, which has symbolic significance within the novel. Belbo, Diotilevi and Casaubon's intellectual game produces a map indicating the geographical point from which all the powers of the Earth can be controlled, a point located in Paris, France, at Foucault's Pendulum. But in a fateful turn the joke becomes all too real. The 3 become increasingly obsessed with the plan, and sometimes forget that it's just a game. Worse still, other conspiracy theorists learn about the plan, and take it seriously too. As an unreliable narrator, Casaubon's own mind becomes warped by the plan. Belbo finds himself the target of a real secret society that believes he possesses the key to the lost treasure of the Knights Templar. Orchestrating these and other diverse characters into his multi-layered semiotic adventure, Eco weaved a superb cerebral entertainment. Eco's fiction is known for its playful use of language and symbols, its astonishing array of allusions and references, and clever use of puzzles and narrative inventions, and Foucault's pendulum brings all of this skill to the reader. Number 2. Blood Meridian, or The Evening Redness in the West by Cormac McCarthy. With a strong link to our number 1 title, McCarthy's Blood Meridian, or An Evening Redness in the West is a brutal look at violence in the settlement of the western United States. The 1985 epic novel by American author Cormac McCarthy can be classified as a Western, or sometimes the anti-Western, genre. The work was McCarthy's 5th novel. The narrative follows a fictional teenager referred to as the Kid, with the bulk of the text devoted to his experiences with the Glanton Gang, an actual historical group of scalp hunters who massacred indigenous Americans and others in the United States-Mexico borderlands from 1849 to 1850 for bounty, pleasure, and eventually out of nihilistic habit. The role of antagonist is gradually filled by Judge Holden, a physically massive, highly educated, preternaturally skilled member of the gang who is extremely pale and completely bald from head to toe. Holden stands with Ahab, Mephistopheles, Lucifer and Anton Chigurh as one of the greatest depictions of evil on the written page. Although the novel initially received lukewarm critical and commercial reception, it has since become highly acclaimed and is widely recognized as McCarthy's magnum opus and one of the greatest American novels of all time. Many have labeled it the Great American Novel. There have been multiple attempts to adapt the novel into a film, but none have succeeded. Blood Meridian contains countless passages that you will find yourself reading over and over again just to marvel at the skill of the author. Consider how McCarthy introduces the Kid.
He can neither read nor write, and in him broods already a taste for mindless violence. All history present in that visage, the child the father of the man.
In the striking attack by Comanche warriors.
A legion of horribles, hundreds in number, half-naked or clad in costumes Attic or biblical or wardrobed out of a fevered dream with the skins of animals and silk finery and pieces of uniform still tracked with the blood of prior owners, coats of slain dragoons, frogged and braided cavalry jackets. One in a stovepipe hat and one with an umbrella and one in white stockings and a blood-stained wedding veil and some in headgear or crane feathers or rawhide helmets that bore the horns of bull or buffalo, and one in a pigeon-tailed coat worn backwards and otherwise naked, and one in the armor of a Spanish conquistador, the breastplate and pauldrons deeply dented with old blows of mace or saber done in another country by men whose very bones were dust, and many with their braids spliced up with the hair of other beasts until they trailed upon the ground, and their horses' ears and tails worked with bits of brightly colored cloth, and one whose horse's whole head was painted crimson red and all. The horsemen's faces gaudy and grotesque with daubings like a company of mounted clowns, death hilarious, all howling in a barbarous tongue and riding down upon them like a horde from a hell more horrible yet than the brimstone land of Christian reckoning, screeching and yammering and clothed in smoke like those vaporous beings in regions beyond right knowing where the eye wanders and the lip jerks and drools.
According to Stephen Shaviro, in the entire range of American literature, only Moby-Dick bears comparison to Blood Meridian. Both are epic in scope, cosmically resonant, obsessed with open space and with language, exploring vast uncharted distances with a fanatically patient minuteness. Both manifest a sublime visionary power that is matched only by still more ferocious irony. Both savagely explode the American dream of manifest destiny of racial domination and endless imperial expansion. He adds, but if anything, McCarthy writes with a yet more terrible clarity than does Melville. We highly recommend the 3-part series on Blood Meridian by Mountains of Books. For a detailed look at this compelling work, see link in the description. Number 1. Moby-Dick, or The Whale by Herman Melville. Writers since 1851 have been chasing the same whale, to somehow write a novel as epic and influential as Melville's Moby-Dick. On the surface, Melville's book is the sailor Ishmael's narrative of the obsessive quest of Ahab, captain of the whaling ship Pequod, for revenge against Moby-Dick, the giant white sperm whale that on the ship's previous voyage bit off Ahab's leg at the knee. In form though, Moby-Dick is a multi-layered epic of writing that touches on the psychological, the historical, the humorous, and the philosophical. A contribution to the literature of the American Renaissance, Moby-Dick was published to mixed reviews, was a commercial failure, and was out of print at the time of the author's death in 1891. Its reputation as a great American novel was established only in the 20th century, after the 1919 centennial of its author's birth. William Faulkner said he wished he had written the book himself, and D.H. Lawrence called it one of the strangest and most wonderful books in the world, and the greatest book of the sea ever written. Its opening sentence, "Call me Ishmael," is among world literature's most famous. Melville began writing Moby-Dick in February 1850 and finished 18 months later, a year after he had anticipated. Melville drew on his experience as a common sailor from 1841 to 1844, including several years on whalers, and on wide reading in whaling literature. The white whale is modeled on a notoriously hard-to-catch albino whale Moby-Dick, and the book's ending is based on the sinking of the whale ship Essex in 1820. The detailed and intimate descriptions of whale hunting and of extracting whale oil, as well as life aboard ship among a culturally diverse crew, are mixed with exploration of class and social status, good and evil, and the existence of God. The book's literary influences include Shakespeare and the Bible. In addition to narrative prose, Melville uses styles and literary devices ranging from songs, poetry, and catalogues to Shakespearean stage directions, soliloquies, and asides. Ahab's dying words are iconic: "Towards thee I roll, thou all-destroying but unconquering whale. To the last I grapple with thee, from hell's heart I stab at thee, for hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee. Sink all coffins and all hearses to one common pool. And since neither can be mine, let me then tow to pieces, while still chasing thee, though tied to thee, thou damned whale. Thus, I give up the spear." In August 1850, with a manuscript perhaps half finished, he met Nathaniel Hawthorne and was deeply impressed by his Mosses from an Old Manse, which he compared to Shakespeare in its cosmic ambitions. This encounter may have inspired him to revise and deepen Moby-Dick, which is dedicated to Hawthorne, in token of my admiration for his genius. It has been said, and it bears repeating, there are two types of people in the world: those who have read Moby-Dick, and those that are going to. The book's wide-ranging style and delivery means that it has something for everyone, and repeat reading will continue to surprise and delight. We found putting this together to be a real challenge. We moved items around and moved items in and out of the list constantly. What did you think of our list? Which works did we leave out? Let us know in the comments, and thank you for watching.
If you are returning to the Classic Masterworks channel, welcome back. If you are new, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you will be made aware of our latest content.